They say darkness reveals what light hides not just in haunted houses or lonely woods, but inside the human spirit itself. There's something deeply personal about fear. It shakes us, cracks us open, and shows what lies beneath the surface of safety and control. Tonight, we step into the shadows together, exploring two very unsettling, true, scary stories that remind us of life's most haunting truth. Even in the darkest moments, the soul still searches for light. But this isn't just about ghosts or killers, it's about the human heart. It's about what happens when everything safe disappears, and all that's left is the sound of your own heartbeat echoing against the walls of uncertainty. Fear strips away illusion. It forces us to face who we are when no one is watching, when help is far away, when the only thing standing between life and death is willpower. These stories are not only frightening, they are mirrors, and what they show us might just save us. There was a young woman named Lena. She was 26, quiet, kind, and hardworking. She worked the late shift at a lonely diner off the side of a long, fog-drenched highway that wound through miles of forest. Most nights, the place was nearly empty, just truckers stopping for coffee or the occasional family passing through. She didn't mind the isolation. The stillness gave her peace. But sometimes, peace can disguise warning. It was past midnight when she finally finished cleaning, wiping down the last counter as the neon sign outside buzzed in the dark. She locked the doors, stepped into her small blue sedan, and started her drive home through that endless forest road. The fog was heavy that night, thicker than usual. The trees seemed to lean inward, closing her in. Her headlights sliced through it, but only barely. The radio whispered static. She hummed softly to calm herself, watching the road like it might disappear beneath her tires at any second. Then, her car sputtered. Once, twice, and died. Her heart sank. She turned the key again, but it only groaned. The fog wrapped around the car like a living thing. No signal on her phone. Just silence and the slow drip of her breath on the cold glass. She tried to think rationally. Maybe it was the battery. Maybe she could walk to the diner. But as she stepped out, flashlight in hand, she felt it something watching. The forest wasn't empty. She could feel it breathing with her. Then she heard it. A whisper, so faint, it almost blended with the wind. Lena. She froze. Her mind tried to explain it. Oh, Amabi, her imagination. Maybe the echo of her own name bouncing back. But it came again. Lena, soft, slow, too human. Her flashlight trembled in her grip as she scanned the mist. That's when she saw it just beyond the reach of the beam. A figure. Standing perfectly still, facing her. Panic surged through her veins. She bolted back into her car, slammed the locks, and pressed her back against the seat. She tried to pray, but her voice wouldn't come out. All she could do was whisper the same plea over and over. Please, not like this. Then came the knock. Gentle, measured. A sound that will never leave her memory. 1, 2, 3 taps against the glass. And then, silence. When morning came, passing drivers found her car still there. She was alive, shaking, pale, clutching her cross so tight it had left an imprint on her palm. The police later confirmed something that made her blood run cold. There had been reports of a man in the area. A man who lured stranded travelers by calling their names from the dark. A man who never left his victims alive. But somehow, he didn't touch her. He didn't break the glass. He didn't open the door. He just disappeared. Some say she was lucky. But Lena said it differently. She said something had stood between her and that man, something she couldn't see, but could feel. A presence that wrapped her in calm when her heart wanted to burst. A whisper stronger than fear itself. She quit her job after that night, but she never forgot what she'd learned. That the darkness you survive becomes your strength. It shapes you. It awakens a part of you that refuses to die. Courage doesn't mean you aren't afraid. It means you stand in the middle of fear, and choose to breathe anyway. We all have our own version of that foggy road. Moments when life breaks down. When we're stranded between what we know and what we can't see. When the world goes quiet and we feel like the only soul left alive. But surviving that, silence, that's not an accident. That's the universe reminding you that you're not done yet. Every time we live through something that should have destroyed us, something in us grows. It's invisible, but it's real. Fear doesn't leave us weaker, it leaves us wiser. Lena didn't just survive a night on a haunted road. She survived herself. She came face to face with a fragile part of her spirit and learned it wasn't fragile at all. Sometimes, life as ghosts aren't dead people, they read the echoes of our own fear calling us back to the light. They're reminders that even when everything breaks, the heart still beats. That's what real courage is. Not fire, not noise. Just breath steady, unshaken, defiant. But not every monster lives in the dark. Some wear smiles, some wave from across the street. Some live next door. In a quiet suburban neighborhood, a boy named Evan played outside every evening until sunset. He loved his bike, the crack of the ball on asphalt, the sound of his mother calling him for dinner. Next door lived Mr. Calhoun, kind, older man who always waved, always smiled, always offered candy from his porch jar. Everyone liked him. He'd lived there for decades, but one evening, Evan didn't come home. The sun fell, the street lights flickered, parents searched, calling his name through the neighborhood. Hours later, police cars lined the street, flashing red and blue. They found him in the basement of Mr. Calhoun's house, died, but alive, shaking, terrified. The town couldn't believe it. The man they trusted, the man who seemed so ordinary, had been hiding a nightmare behind his gentle voice. What haunted them wasn't just what he did, it was how close evil had been. It had shared their smiles, their conversations, their sense of safety. That neighborhood was never the same again. Parents became more protective, neighbors more aware. Fear moved in, but so did strength. The community started to heal not through denial, but through awareness, through courage. Evan grew up quiet for a while. But one day, when asked what he learned from it all, he said something remarkable. Not every monster looks like one. But not every stranger is a monster either. You just have to listen when your heart whispers something's wrong. That sentence carried more wisdom than years could teach, because intuition is sacred. That uneasy feeling, that subtle pull in your chest when something feels off, that's not fear, it's protection. Sometimes, it's how the divine speaks. These two stories different, yet bound by fear, carry lessons that cut deeper than horror itself. Lena's darkness taught her strength. Evan's betrayal taught him wisdom. One learned that the night doesn't last forever. The other learned that not every light is true. Together, they show us something profoundly human. Fear exists to awaken us, not destroy us. But there's more that horror can teach if we listen. A flood once struck a small village in Indonesia. The current was fierce, swallowing everything. In the chaos, people swore they saw shadows walking across the water, dark figures gliding against the waves. Panic spread, and faith crumbled. But one man, Imam Yusuf, refused to run. He gathered the people, prayed, and led them to higher ground. When the waters receded, the shadows turned out to be floating debris, clothes, illusions of the storm. Fear had lied to them, but faith had saved them. That's the strange mercy of terror. It shows us where faith lives. Sometimes, the scariest things are just reflections of our own panic. Faith doesn't erase fear. It gives you the courage to see past it. Another night, across the ocean, a woman in Eastern Europe was approached by a man while traveling alone. It was dark, the streets were empty, and everything in her told her to run. But instead, she stopped, handed him a piece of bread from her bag, and said, "You look cold." He took it and left. The next morning, she learned he'd attacked others nearby Butte. Not her. When he was caught, he said one thing that haunted her for years. She looked at me like I was still human. Sometimes, compassion is stronger than fear. Sometimes, kindness confuses darkness. There is a story of a family who moved into an old farmhouse and began hearing footsteps at night. No matter how many times they checked, no one was there. Until one evening, they found letters in the attic club notes from a woman decades ago, grieving the loss of her child. The mother of the family read them out loud and prayed for her. After that night, the footsteps stopped. Peace replaced the noise. Pain echoes until it's acknowledged. Healing isn't just for the living, it's for everything we touch, every place we inhabit, every memory we inherit. When we offer understanding, we end cycles of fear. And then, there's the story of the lighthouse keeper in 1900 who vanished without a trace. His last journal entry read, "The wind talks to me now." Isolation can breed its own kind of horror. When we're too long alone, the mind begins to whisper. It reminds us that the greatest ghosts are often born inside us. Loneliness can make you see shadows where there are none. Connection, kindness, love, they are the light that keeps the soul from becoming haunted. A woman once escaped a burning home with nothing but her child and the clothes on her back. She lost everything: her pictures, her memories, her past. And yet, she said later that fear gave her gratitude. She said, "I stopped complaining about what I didn't have because I realized how much I still did." Sometimes, fear strips us down until we see life for what it is: a gift, fleeting and precious. Horror, in its twisted way, teaches us how to love being alive. And every dark night, no matter how endless, gives way to dawn. Survivors of tragedies often remember the exact moment the sun rose again, the color of the sky, the sound of morning birds, the warmth on their skin. That first light after darkness is more than just sunrise. It's rebirth. It's proof that nothing lasts forever, not even pain. Fear is real. But so is faith. So is love. So is the strength that refuses to die, no matter what the night brings. When the unknown knocks on your window, when your heart beats too loud and your breath turns shallow, remember you've already survived every dark night you've ever faced. Every moment you thought you couldn't go on, you did. That's not coincidence. That's strength. Hold your light close. Keep your heart gentle, even when the world isn't. Fear may visit, but it can't stay if you refuse to welcome it. May you never be defined by your fears, but refined by them. May every shadow you meet remind you of the light you carry. And when the night feels endless, may dawn find you standing braver, softer, and unafraid.